August 7, 1942. This is Guadalcanal, the first American offensive of the Pacific War. A flare bursts green overhead. 19-year-old Private Dale Piper, 90 pounds of gear on his back, wades chest-deep through warm surf as red tracers snap past his helmet. Behind him, a landing craft explodes in orange fire. He keeps moving forward because turning back isn't an option. In war, someone has to be first to die on a forgotten island so the rest of the world can live. Was trading his life for a jungle airstrip worth stopping an empire that hadn't lost a war in 2,000 years? This is not another story about Midway or D-Day. This is the 6-month nightmare almost no one remembers. Yet every historian agrees on one thing: Guadalcanal was the hinge on which the entire Pacific War turned. Between August 1942 and February 1943, two exhausted empires threw everything they had at a malaria-soaked speck in the Solomon Islands most Americans had never heard of. One side had to break. When the smoke finally cleared, Japan's aura of invincibility was shattered forever. Its best naval pilots and veteran infantry were gone for good, and the Imperial Navy would never again seize the strategic initiative. What you're about to see is how a few thousand half-starved Marines, sailors, and soldiers, armed with 1903 rifles and sheer refusal to lose, bought the Allied world 18 crucial months. Months that decided whether democracy or militarism would rule the Pacific century. And at the center of it all was one overlooked truth almost no documentary ever mentions. Stay until the end. You'll never think about the road to Hiroshima the same way again. By July 1942, Japan owns the Pacific. One narrow corridor, the slot, controls everything south of Rabaul. Hold the slot and Australia dies. Lose it and the entire Japanese perimeter cracks. At the southern tip sits Guadalcanal, 90 miles long, jungle-choked, malaria-ridden, almost no roads. In June 1942, Japanese engineers start carving an airstrip out of the grass. American codebreakers see the reconnaissance photos and name it Henderson Field. Whoever owns that runway owns the sky over half the Pacific. Here's what almost no one tells you. The Marines who sailed to take it, 11,000 men of the 1st Division, were the only fully trained amphibious unit America had. They carried 60 days of food, 90 days of ammo, and 1903 Springfield rifles. The Navy promised air cover, then warned it might vanish the moment Japanese carriers appeared. Tokyo's reaction? Disbelief. Admiral Yamamoto's staff calculated America was 6 months away from any offensive. They left 2,200 construction troops and one weak battalion to finish the airfield. Both sides missed the real stakes. This wasn't about one island. It was about who would dictate the tempo of the war for the next 3 years. And one quiet detail would soon bleed the Imperial Navy white. American codebreakers already knew every Japanese convoy schedule to the hour. That same breathing room Guadalcanal bought America is exactly what allowed the most secret project of the war to stay ahead of Nazi Germany. We told that story in The Secret Race to Build the Atomic Bomb, inside the Manhattan Project. August through October 1942. Marines seize Henderson Field in hours. Then the Tokyo Express starts running. Every single night, Japanese destroyers scream down the slot at 30 knots, shell the perimeter, unload troops, vanish by dawn. Every day, the Cactus Air Force, patched together Wildcats and Dauntlesses, takes off from a bombed-out runway to hunt them. Fuel arrives in 55-gallon drums rolled by hand. Pilots eat cold Spam, shake with malaria, and fly again. By October, the Marines are losing more men to disease than bullets. Uniforms rot off their backs. November 12th through 15th, 1942. This is the moment historians still argue about. Japanese battleships Hiei and Kirishima steam south to flatten Henderson Field and land 7,000 fresh troops. American codebreakers know the exact hour. Night of November 13th, Rear Admiral Callahan's 5 cruisers and 8 destroyers charge straight into the enemy column at point-blank range. Searchlights snap on. For 24 insane minutes, the night is nothing but muzzle flashes and exploding steel. Callahan dies on his bridge, still shouting orders. Dawn. Hiei crippled, abandoned, sunk by air attack. The first Japanese battleship lost in the war. 2 nights later, Admiral Lee's battleship Washington pumps 75 radar-directed 16-inch shells into Kirishima in 7 minutes. She explodes and sinks. Japan loses 2 battleships, 1 heavy cruiser, 11 transports, and nearly all its veteran naval pilots in 4 days. The reinforcement convoy turns back, and then everything changed. December 1942 to January 1943. Marines average 118 pounds. Christmas dinner, 2 tablespoons of rice. On the Japanese side, it's worse. Starving soldiers eat grass, roots, leather. Reports of cannibalism filter in. 1 regiment of 2,000 is reduced to 130 walking skeletons. Yet the Marines refuse evacuation. A private writes home, "We're hungry, sick, and tired, but we're still here, and they know it." February 7, 1943. The last Japanese destroyer slips away in a storm. Over 10,000 enemy troops are evacuated in 3 textbook nights, but Japan has lost the strategic initiative forever. Admiral Yamamoto stares at the casualty lists and tells his staff, "Only miracle can save us now." The Marines watch the empty sea and finally understand. They didn't just hold an island, they broke the myth of Japanese invincibility. February 9, 1943. The U.S. Army's 161st Infantry raises a fresh American flag over Guadalcanal's government house. The campaign is officially over. Cost to the United States, 7,100 dead and wounded, mostly Marines. Cost to Japan, 31,000 dead, 9,000 in combat, the rest to starvation and disease. Plus 38 warships, over 800 aircraft, and the cream of its pre-war naval air arm. The strategic map of the Pacific has been redrawn overnight. Japan's outer perimeter is cracked. Rabaul, the great fortress base, is now within range of constant air attack. The Bismarck barrier no longer exists. Australia is safe. New Guinea can be retaken at leisure. Most importantly, the Imperial Navy has lost the ability to fight a major fleet action anywhere south of Truk. Tokyo's admirals now face a nightmare they never planned for: attrition. Every pilot shot down over the slot is gone forever. Japan's training pipeline cannot replace them. Every cruiser or destroyer sunk is one less escort for the tankers bringing oil from the East Indies. By mid-1943, Japanese carriers will sail with half-empty hangars and inexperienced air groups. The initiative has flipped permanently. For the United States, Guadalcanal is the bloody proof that Japan can be beaten on the ground, in the air, and at sea, simultaneously. Industrial production, already surging, now has 18 uninterrupted months to reach full roar. Essex-class carriers slide down the ways in flocks. New Marine and Army divisions train with real combat lessons instead of theory. And in laboratories across America, the Manhattan Project races forward with money, uranium, and most precious of all, time, purchased at the price of those skeletal boys on that green hell. Guadalcanal didn't just stop Japan's southward drive. It forced the empire to burn its irreplaceable seed corn in a 6-month furnace, ensuring that when the final battles came, Leyte, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, Japan would fight with one hand tied behind its back. If you love real World War II stories that sound unbelievable but actually happened, subscribe for more. The island is quiet now. Only the jungle remembers. Here's the detail almost no documentary mentions. Guadalcanal was never in the original war plans as the turning point. Every pre-war Orange plan said America would go on the offensive in 1944, maybe 1945. But 6 months of hell forced history to speed up. Japan lost because it could not afford to lose even once. It entered the war with the best carrier pilots on Earth. Guadalcanal killed most of them and guaranteed the rest would never be replaced. America learned the opposite lesson. We could lose ships, planes, and men, and still come back stronger next month. That simple arithmetic, replacement versus attrition, decided the Pacific War more than any single battle. A few rusted helmets and broken rifles still lie in the Guadalcanal jungle today. The boys who left them there never lived to see Hiroshima. But the time they bought with their lives made Hiroshima possible. 6 months on a forgotten island quietly changed everything. Because 6 months on this island taught both empires the same brutal truth. The next battle wouldn't be decided by men with rifles, but by whoever could build the weapon that would make islands and entire cities disappear forever. Next, on Wars and Myths, the secret race to build the atomic bomb inside the Manhattan Project. How the clock Guadalcanal bought was spent in secret laboratories across America. See you there.